And those of you who have done the practice with me, you've seen that transformation happen on multiple levels. You don't experience life the same way that you used to experience it when you first started. Whether it started the practice or whether it started when you started seeing me, or you're just using me as a marker, or you're using your own spiritual journey as a marker, those who have given their life truly to a spiritual practice, they know that they do not experience life the same way as they did before they started it. Hence, being a servant is not being a slave. Serving the order of God, giving your life over to whatever God's purpose is for it, is not being a slave. It's being a servant. It's truly a way to be free. You're serving something that is truly responsible for all the things that are happening in your life. So when we talk about conscious incarnation, okay, we're not talking about a lifetime, okay, in terms of an incarnation, okay, and we're not talking about incarnations like as in the Eastern philosophies, where you're born again and again and again in other physical forms. No. We're talking about something far more powerful and dynamic. We're talking about the power, the co-creative power of life and death, unresisted, creating spontaneous transformation of consciousness, which we are consciousness in form. We are consciousness first. We are in a form downstream. And that those co-creative powers, if unresisted to a large degree, can bring spontaneous enlightenment to a situation, to a being, to a form that instantaneously changes the way it being the consciousness, perceives its reality around it and its relation to that reality. That's a mouthful, but it's on tape. Okay? Which means in a moment, everything you know to be a certain way can be completely different. And most importantly, your relationship to that which you once known can be completely different as well. Which means you are always open and ready to be in a space of the complete unknown. And in order to be in a space of harmony and peace with that level of constant transformation, it no longer serves you to have an emotional reaction to what's going on around you. Because your emotional reaction to that level of change will inevitably default into the primitive emotions of fear, paranoia, resistance, okay? Let's just call it, all those emotions just build a field of resistance. So we've called them emotions all the way through. Tonight you understand why I've been talking to you about it. It's resistance. All unnecessary emotional reactions that are habitually being indulged in, are not being practiced to be let go of, create a field of resistance that then creates a block to that instantaneous transformation from one level of consciousness into another, which means you are on a certain level using free will, choosing to be fearful instead of allowing enlightenment to happen at a quicker and easier pace. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I know that I don't think feeling fear or anxiety is all that comfortable. And I think all of us in this room know to one degree or another that being in a more enlightened state is pretty comfortable. So again, this is where I challenge anyone to say that really isn't a free will decision. There's really no choice. When you've experienced a level of continuity with your environment, lack of resistance, peace, acceptance, there's really no deciding to be fearful anymore. It's at that point where you need to really practice actively going into your fear, actively facing your fear, confronting your fear, resolving it, not running from it anymore. Because all it is fear. All it is an emotional reaction. It isn't the truth. It's what resists the truth to some degree. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. This is a natural segue that every level of consciousness, you have to go through this. Fear is a normal part of a certain level of consciousness, and at a certain point, fear is not a normal part of a certain level of consciousness, unless you believe all you are is a human animal. And if you are, I would hope that you wouldn't be in the class at this point, or you're really confused. Because believing that we're an animal, okay, that's all we are, that we're nothing more, that's all everything is just what it is, then that's like believing that you're just going to live for 70 years and you're going to die and that's going to be it. And that's okay if you believe that, but you don't belong here. You don't belong here. Because the practice is about living your eternal life now. So it's about living in a way where you're connecting with the eternity of the heavens onto the earth right now, right here. Heaven on earth, right here, right now. Not when you die. It's not somewhere you go. It's somewhere you are. It's an internal place. It's a spiritual, physical existence. There's not a conflict anymore. The form is not limiting. The flesh is not keeping you a prisoner. When allowed, it will transform to the best of its God-given ability right along with your consciousness. Now, what I'm talking about isn't anything new and exciting. You know, it isn't. It's just the way things have been happening forever. It's the way things happen. Consciousness evolves. Consciousness takes on some kind of form. Forms evolve. Forms go through change. They come into existence, they go out of existence. They come into existence, they go out of existence. I mean, we have evidence of it just in the fossil history of our planet, for God's sakes. Things come into existence, they go out of existence. For all kinds of reasons, of which are not important. We're not about why it does, okay? We're about being at peace with the fact that it does. And what is the potential if we let go of our resistance of needing to understand why it does, and we just give in to the fact that it does? We become property of the unknown, which, let's face it, everybody, we are. The vast majority of everything that allows life to be is unknown. So we are the property of the unknown. We know nothing about this universe in terms of what makes it really do what it does, what makes it work the way it works. We would like to tell ourselves we're beginning to scratch the surface of what things out there do. But we're completely limited by our perspective of it. We only can see as much as we can see. And we've talked about this in other classes. So we are the property of the unknown. So the notion that you can steer your way through your life, trying to get from point A to point B, you know, deciding what experiences you need to have and what experiences you don't need to have, okay? You're going to experience a certain number of experiences that you need to evolve your consciousness to the form it's meant to evolve in what you consider to be a physical lifetime. And if you don't, those experiences, if you use your free will to stop yourself from having certain experiences, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that, I got news for you. In the next incarnation that you're in a physical form, you're going to have those experiences. The energy is going to go through what it needs to go through eventually. You know, you can stand there and put your hands in front of the tidal wave, but the water's still going to go around you. That's denial. You are here to experience this. There is no other purpose we would exist except that we're here to experience this. If we're not here to experience this, to evolve to a space of enlightenment, this whole experience is completely purposeless. And how can it be so divine and orderly if it's so purposeless? That makes no sense. It has to be for that reason. So the unknown, you know, knows what it's doing. Conscious incarnation allows you the freedom to never be a prisoner of your ignorance. It's what gives you the ability to completely fall in love with what you're ignorant of. Knowing that you're completely at peace with what you don't know, and you're also completely at peace that in any moment you could be what? Gone. That you're completely at peace with what you don't know, and at the same moment you're completely at peace with being completely enlightened to something you had no idea you didn't even know. And in becoming aware of something that you didn't even know you didn't know, everything completely changes in how you look at the world in general. That shift in consciousness is a conscious incarnation. The reason those words were given to me is because you are in a new life. When the way you see life changes so dramatically that it is no longer the same thing that it once was, that's a new lifetime, folks. Lifetimes need to be defined by your consciousness, not your form. Because every lifetime that I came into consciousness of, it dictated the form of my life. When I became conscious of the fact that I was no longer supposed to be doing chiropractic adjustments on a regular basis, I was having pain down the left side of my neck and arm, had it for months, was fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. You know, for all those crazy reasons, I'm in the last video that I was doing this, okay? Fighting it. And God said, would you just wake up? You're done being a chiropractor. Stop identifying yourself with that. You're more valuable to the greater good as a spiritual teacher, so just stop it. I sat in a chair and I went, oh my God, I'm done being a chiropractor. It's over. If I do it here or there, it doesn't matter, but I'm done being that. That way of looking at life is over. That way of viewing it is over. Immediately the pain was gone from my neck and arm. Has never returned. Now, could I have continued to be an adjuster until I couldn't do it any longer, until the pain was so bad that I couldn't do it? Yeah, but that was the old way, remember? That was what I told you last time. I continued to resist God until I was crippled with back pain, until I couldn't do anything more to make it better. And then I finally surrendered and said, okay, I'm yours, do whatever you want with me. You know, I'll be, you know, the number one guy in the circus show, whatever. And then all of a sudden my back pain started going away. That is a shift in consciousness. To no longer be what you once believed you were is a shift in consciousness.